Dogate, Andrew Ecker, Yinishe, Adonne E, Nishinigi E, Inde Nishe, Irish Bashachin, Inde Dashache, German Dashanali, Akote Go E Tashli E, Portland, Oregon, Inasha, Shema E, Kathy Lindsay Woye, Shaza E, Dil Ecker Wole. My name is Andrew Ecker. My mother, Kathy Lindsay. My father, Dale Ecker. My mother's mother, Elva Gallegos, Apache woman from New Mexico. My father's mother, Evelyn Beatty, Irish woman from Pennsylvania. My mother's father, Leroy Lindsay, Apache man from Arkansas. My father's father, Wayne Ecker, German and Algonquin from Pennsylvania. I have a daughter, Bailey, a son, Peyton, a beautiful, beloved fiance, Monica. I was born in Portland, Oregon, although I reside here in the land of the Akma Atam, the Pipash, the Maricopa, here in Phoenix, Arizona. And I'm grateful to be here with all of you. Grateful to share with you some insights that I hope will bring value and quality of life enhancements to you. My content is generally about emotional sovereignty. It's generally in the place of emotional intelligence, relational spirituality, and self-identity. So if you're into those topics, you've come to a good place. And if you're not, well, maybe you know somebody that is, and you'd like to share this information with them. We love it when you subscribe and when you share. It makes us feel really, really good. So grateful to be here again. And I wanted to share something that really has affected me in my life to the point of paralysis. And that is the really intense situation of fear. How do we relate to fear? How do we begin to galvanize ourselves into the place of strength? And how do we begin to foster a relationship with fear that really serves us? Fear is something that I can tell you for many years of my life was the primary operating system of my reality. I really lived many years of my life in a constant state of fear. And it's something that I know really well. Yet, as I have grown as an adult, I've seen fear manifest itself in ways that I feel is really kind of under the surface. And the actual behaviors that I have experienced in my life due to fear have been very surface. Attacking, myself, self-harm. They've been the way of angry defensiveness, argumentative nature. Many years of my life, of course, involved in addiction. I have 20 years free from substance abuse. And as you grow in your process of understanding your own emotional intelligence, what you can allow for yourself to understand is how you as a person can begin to really transform the density of the energy of fear into a process that fuels the fire of your own sovereignty. Living in a place in which I've had a relationship to fear in my life that has been so paralyzing and so self-damaging that I've literally been in kind of a hovering place over my behaviors and then looked at my behaviors and judged those behaviors as sick, as mentally ill, as confusion. Why am I doing this behavior again? And I'm talking about the byproduct of severe post-traumatic stress disorder. Post-traumatic stress has brought into my life behaviors like perimeter checks, constant defensiveness, feeling the need to defend my friends, my family, even when they weren't under attack, just my own perceived understanding of them being threatened. And I would step out in front like I had something to defend in that process. Sometimes in an argument in my family, in the bubble of my life, all of these things really have come down to my relationship with fear. And I want to share with you a couple what I really consider are paralyzing myths that our contemporary culture has created around two very simple concepts. And that one is perfectionism. Now, I can tell you that perfectionism is something that in my household, it is a constant kind of relationship that we have with perfectionism, because perfectionism is an understanding of I need to have this content perfect. I need to have this email perfect. I need to have all of these things. So I'm in a relationship with my own need for perfectionism all the time. And what I found is that really the only perfectionism that is really associated with your life, or the only thing that you can really create that's not perfect, right, is the not doing. That's the only thing that's not perfect. Everything else is perfect because it goes back to the nature of practicing life. When we give ourselves permission to live in relationship to our business, in relationship to our content, in relationship to our practice, whatever that may be, even, in your job, the relationship you have to your job, what you do is you begin to loosen yourself from the idea of the perpetuating of this perfect mentality. And you get into the place where you realize that the only thing that is not perfect is when you don't do something. So when we limit ourselves inside of the container of our perfectionism and we say, oh, this has to be perfect before I do it, right? What we're doing is we're really enabling ourselves to stay in paralysis. We're enabling ourselves to stay in the place in which we are paralyzed by our actions. Because perfectionism, in a sense, will keep you from actually doing something. And doing something is the process of learning that, okay, I've accomplished something today. Making your bed in the morning. Me and Monica practice making our bed in the morning. Every day when one of us wakes up, we will get to making the bed because that is an allowance of an accomplishment. Making your bed in the morning is a very simple but yet profound allowance of accomplishment. And the allowance of accomplishment in your life will begin to manipulate your behaviors, and it will allow you to step outside of the paralysis of the confusion of the illusion of perfectionism. Now, is it important to understand the innate perfect state inside of all of us? You'll hear in my content the idea of production for the means of restoration. You'll hear me talk about restoring ourselves back to our earthly nature, restoring ourselves back to the optimal state of human design. And what this means is this is found inside of the Beauty Way prayer. Right? Beauty above, beauty below, beauty beside, beauty in front, beauty behind, beauty within. This is an indigenous philosophy of understanding that there is beauty around us. And we, as we begin to navigate and as we begin to tune in our own consciousness to that beauty, we allow for the manifestation of the perfect nature of us as flawed individuals to come forward. Now, what does that mean, right? Perfectly flawed. This is what I feel is at the heart of those of us that are in a place of self-awareness. Because I understand, right, that I'm God, yet I have to wake up in the morning to go to the bathroom. The balancing act of that is really inside of the consciousness. As we begin to create a resistance to the understanding of our perfection, what we do is we perpetuate that barrier that keeps us from actually doing something. And I'm here to share with you that relational spirituality is really the vehicle for you having a superpower in your life. And that superpower is the ability to accomplish what your soul has directed you to do. And in accomplishing those very simple tasks in your life, you will begin to see the fruits and the merit of your abilities to really hone in your gifts. So again, one of the major confusions, one of the major illusions that we have in our contemporary society for many people is perfectionism and how that relates to fear. Well, fear, right, oftentimes is protecting ourselves. And this is really when we get into the sacred seven, we allow the understanding of the masculine to be generated. And when the masculine is imbalanced, the masculine really creates all kinds of opportunities to protect the inner child from judgment. And many of us that grew up in broken homes where language and the ability to articulate and optimize our own way of connecting to one another was not a practice. Let's be really honest with one another. Our schools, our churches, our places in which we look to for the elevation of our consciousness are really in a state of lack. We were at a mental health crisis prior to COVID, prior to the pandemic, prior to the Black Lives Matter movement, prior to all of the different things that are going on right now inside of our culture, prior to all of these situations and circumstances that are leading to the paralysis of our state of mind, our consciousness, and our peace. when we really step into that understanding, we can begin to design a culture that serves us. And when we understand where we've been, we can truly navigate where we're going. And where we're going is better than where we're at. And I really believe that all of these instruments of change that have come into our lives are giving us an opportunity to sit with our own emotional intelligence and to grow. One of the parts of that growth is really focusing on the ability for the divine masculine to navigate and understand the constant barriers between us stepping into the optimal state of design and our limitations and our thoughts. When you are in a protective state, a defensive state, what we are doing is we are blinded to the ability of our own system of realization. You see, defensiveness is generated from fear. Because I'm in an imbalance with the masculine, I now am overprotecting myself. And another one of these illusions that can come into mind is the idea of self-sabotage. What is self-sabotage? It really is confusing for us to think about this idea, but yet it's a part of our contemporary culture. I know for years of my life, I was in the idea that I was self-sabotaging. And really, when I began to evolve spiritually, emotionally, and when I stepped into the place of self-identity, I began to realize that really I was afraid. And if you're living in that place of fear, I want you to know that there is a freedom and a sovereignty in your life that can get you over that cognitive dissonance, that place in which you disconnect from your ability to actually live in the optimal state of human design. Now, is it an overnight pill? I wish I could tell you that, but this is a process. And one of the things that's very important is for you to develop a community of people in your life that can help you, that can nurture you, that can give you the authenticity and allow for you to be vulnerable as you explore your relational spirituality. And in this place of self-awareness, we come to the understanding of sovereignty. Fear is a huge part of getting us to the place in which we find emotional sovereignty, in which we find the intelligence of understanding how we feel. Now, we live in a world that is constantly saying, oh, this makes me feel. We even have therapists that will say to a person, how does this make you feel? When in all actuality, if you took the make you out of the equation and just simply said to a person, how do you feel right now? What you could do is you could begin to harness the power of the sovereign nature of what we are as spiritual beings inside of a person. And you can eliminate the perpetuation of the victim. Because when we own our feelings, when I began to own my fear, when I began to look at my life, when I began to realize the people in my life didn't grow up with emotional intelligence. They didn't even have the opportunity to go through treatment, to go through all of the things that I had in my life. When I began to understand those places of understanding my own fear, I loosened the captivity, the chains that were on me, the place of slavery to that kind of unseen power that was in my life. And I'll tell you, it's still a process. To be really vulnerable with you, when I get around a group of men, and I love doing men's work because it stretches me, it challenges me. But yet there's a part of me that begins to look at sizing guys up and to look at them as threats or not a threat. And this nature within me, it really brings me back to a place of evaluating that sensation of fear. When you walk into a room and you walk in boldly and confident, and you have your chin in a good place and you're posturing and you feel that sort of confidence in your life, what you can do is you can rest in that place of the totality of your experience without having to create judgment on others or belittling them to raise your own ego. And this is emotional evolution, right? And this is freedom from the cognitive kind of jargon that goes on in our lives. And it also allows for us to understand, where is that coming from? When you encounter yourself in a room of people that don't look like you, they don't have the same color of skin as you, and you begin to create that sort of dialogue in your mind, or you see a group of people on the street, or you're at an event or something like that, and you begin to instinctually go into that place of survival or fear, when you become optimized in your emotional intelligence, you can really realize where that comes from. What was the trigger that brought you to that place? And Monica says something that's really profound. She says, you can't be triggered if you don't have a gun in your hand, right? And that is that defensive nature that wants to go out there and protect the inner child. Because really, we're all babies. We're all little babies. And we're just trying to understand how to be in the practice of living in freedom. The Sacred Seven gives us that space to really understand our own evolution, to step into that reality of emotional intelligence and understanding relational spirituality and self-identity. But this is a practice. It is a lifelong practice. But guess what? The rewards are immense. When you begin to focus on your own space, when you begin to understand who you are and you rest in the place of your self-identity, the limitless potential of what this world has to offer opens up. I am a living proof of this process. I come from two family members. My parents, both of them died of drug-related causes. My mother from a cocaine overdose, my father from cirrhosis of the liver. I've been in leadership development, corporate team building. I've done all of these. I'm a sought-after speaker. I just got done speaking a keynote presentation for the Oklahoma Mental Health Conference. And realizing that the son of two junkies, that grew up in the height of the drug war and poverty and all these different ideas and concepts that I've had to overcome in my life. Thoughts of suicide, drug addiction. I was a heroin addict, crack cocaine addict. I spent time in prison. All of these things for drug use, all of these processes that are inside of my life to limit me have been the catalyst for my greatest medicine. It is self-awareness that can bring you to that place. If you have a dream in your life, something that you want to achieve, I've worked with 6 different Native American tribes. I've worked with, major corporations. But most importantly, living in the life of service has given me the ability to understand the language that people speak, because I've spoke that language inside of my own mind. And understanding your language sometimes is best done when it's reflected in another individual. See, just having that witness of how to bounce ideas off of a person, creating a group setting, that's what we're doing with the Sacred Seven. And if you haven't gotten the book, we're going to close tonight the next group. We do launch periodically group intentions, and this is an immersion into the practice of the Sacred Seven, the book that I wrote about self-identity, relational spirituality, and also emotional intelligence. This book is a guide to understanding who you are. In understanding who you are, you optimize your own relationship with the world. We create a group experience around this book, and we have one coming up tonight, actually, Tuesday night. We're going to be launching one. What I want to make aware to you is that there is an opportunity, if you have not gotten involved in our group experience, where you're going to have people that can keep you accountable to your own emotional intelligence, your relational spirituality, your self-identity. If you haven't began to create a culture in your life of optimization, we have a practice for you. And this practice is gentle, and yet it gives you an opportunity to go deeply into that space inside of your own captivity to bring about sovereignty. And this is what I feel is really missing. Robert White Mountain, a Lakota man that I met in Nevada at Burning Man, he told me, he said, the issue with humanity is what the elders have taught him. And that is that we have forgotten how to be in the circle of life. We have forgotten the hoop. And what he meant by that is community, right? Where do we fit into circle? Where do we as a community begin to understand how to navigate our emotional intelligence? Listen, the issues that we're having with race, the issues that we're having with the systemic, the horrible systemic issues that have been plaguing people of color in this country since the dawn of this country. You know, this country really, if you look at the Declaration of Independence and the founding fathers, it was never written for all people. You know, my ancestors, Apache people, were termed savages in that documentation. Still to this day, slavery is legal in this country when it comes to the exemption clause. I mean, this is a pattern of historical trauma that we need to recognize, but it's not going to come from the top, right? It's going to come from the bottom. And we're sitting here at the bottom with hands open, wanting to help facilitate sacred space, wanting to bring our culture to a place in which we begin to optimize ourselves. We are going to have gardens on the outside of the buildings in downtown Phoenix. We are going to have gardens on the outside of the buildings in downtown LA and in New York. I have seen the future, and the future is better than where we're at. But it also takes time for us to develop the emotional awareness in which we can receive the ability to live in what the Creator has for us. The air, the water, the fire, the earth, gravity, time, spirit, the animal people, they're all cheering us on as we step into this place of understanding how to live that life that is designed before us. There is a great unfolding going on right now energetically within the consciousness of the universe, and all of the light beings, the beings that are working in the seen and unseen parts of our lives. The Holy Spirit is calling us forward. Our ancestors are calling us forward. We are living under the prophecies that have been written, that have been spoken, that have been danced, that have been drummed into existence for this time that we are in right now. And it is important that we create a culture. And I am here, Monica's here, our community is here to develop that. Please get connected with us through the Sacred Seven. Please get connected with getting the book, the audio book for free. The information in the book is free to you. All you need to do is go sign up on our email list. We are working in the prison system now. We just got our book okayed by the chaplaincy program. You can donate to this ministry by purchasing a $10 book. We send the book into the prisons. If you haven't gotten a signed copy of the book, you can get those on our website. $27 gets you a personal message, a signed copy of the Sacred Seven, a free copy of the audio book, and I'm going to deliver a book to a prison in your honor if you get a signed copy of the book. So please participate in our community. We are counting on you to step into the place that you have been designed to be and to live to the fulfillment of your ancestors' dreams and prayers. You know, I give thanks for you, all of you here. And I want to just remind all of us that we're in this together, that nobody is alone. And if you haven't heard this today, that you're loved, I want you to know that I love you. And I'm grateful for you being a part of this community. And I'm grateful for us having an opportunity to make a transformational change in the world. It takes us being responsible for our emotional intelligence, our self-identity, and our relational spirituality. Please join with us in the Sacred Seven process. Thank you so much. Beauty above, beauty below, beauty beside, beauty in front, beauty behind, beauty within. I am, we are made beautiful again.